Hi, and welcome back to English Lessons with Stephanie. This is speaking lesson 14. In today's lesson, we'll work on our grammar, which was modifying comparatives. We'll do some pronunciation with the silent B, and then we'll do conversation about different types of school. Here are some speaking tips. Remember to relax. When you're feeling relaxed, you'll speak better and more fluently. Secondly, try and speak normally. Use your normal tone of voice and talk as loudly or softly as you would normally. And thirdly, remember that it's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes when we talk, and we're just trying to do a little bit better than we did the last time. But before we start with our grammar, let's quickly set some goals. What do we hope to improve? Is it our pronunciation? Is it our fluency, accuracy, variety, or mastery? Pick one or two of these goals to work on. So in this week's grammar lesson, we talked about modifying comparatives. So let's practice using this grammar by comparing your life now to your life 2 years ago, or maybe last year if that is easier for you. In our first example, we can use nouns to do this. So you could say, I have much less time than I did 2 years ago. So you would choose a modifier like much or far or a lot or a little, and then the correct comparative structure. So I would say less time or more time, or more money or less money, or fewer friends or more friends, and choose something and just make some sentences that work for you. In our second example, we use a verb form. So similarly, we would say I work much more or much less. So here the modifiers would come after the verb. And in our third example, we would use an adjective form, like I am much less lazy, or I am a lot happier. You can also use this structure to compare your city or town to another city or town. So for example, I could say San Francisco is much smaller than New York, something like that. Or compare yourself to a friend or family member. So I could say I am much lazier than my mother. So let's talk. Using these prompts, let's practice modifying our comparatives. Now let's work on some pronunciation. The silent B. So in this week's vocabulary, we had the word debt. And in the word debt, we have a silent B. Silent means there's no sound. So we don't pronounce the letter B. Remember, debt is something that we have to give back to someone, sometimes money. And a debtor is someone who owes, and the debtor is the person who has to pay something back. So here are some other words that use the silent B. Doubt. Doubt is when you are not sure if something is true or real. The word dumb, right? Dumb means stupid. And the comparative form, dumber. So we don't say dumb or dumber, we say dumb or dumber. And then plumb and plumber. A plumber is a person who fixes the pipes in your house. This is how we get water. So a plumber might fix the shower or the sink or the toilet. And then over here, we have some words that have a silent B at the end of a word after the letter M, such as comb or lamb, the animal, or limb, which means an arm or a leg. So let's talk. Just practice saying these words and knowing that these all contain a silent B. Okay, next we're going to do some conversation practice about primary school. So we'll start by describing a typical day in primary school. And for this example, you want to use the simple present tense. Remember, this is the tense that we use when we talk about things that are always true. So for example, you could say, in primary school, kids learn math, or primary school begins at 8 o'clock every day, or children in primary school are 6 to 10 years old, something like that. Okay, so for this, you're going to want to use the simple present tense. For the second prompt, describe a memory of primary school. And a memory means something that you remember in the past. So for this example, you're going to want to use this simple past tense. Like in primary school, I learned to write, or I had a friend named Sarah. Anything that you say about your memory of primary school should be in the past tense. Okay? So let's talk. Practice talking about primary school using these two prompts. Our next conversation topic will be secondary school. So in our first prompt, we're going to answer the question, how is secondary school different from primary school? To answer this question, you can use these formats, like there is or are, and you would use is with a singular subject or are with a plural subject. So for example, there are more books in secondary school, or there is more homework in secondary school. And then you could use a modifier in pink if you want to make the sentence stronger. Like there is much more homework in secondary school than in primary school. Or you can use the second structure starting with students. So for example, students work more in secondary school, or students work much more in secondary school if you want to use the modifier. Our second prompt says, describe a typical day in secondary school. So just like our previous slide, you would want to use the simple present tense. And then secondly, describe a memory from secondary school. And for here, you would want to use the simple past tense. So let's talk. Pause the video, answer these 3 prompts, and then move on. And finally, for our last conversation topic, we'll talk about higher education. So here, describe a typical day in college. Again, you'll want to use the simple present tense. And finally, answer this question. Do you think it is important to go to college? Why or why not? So here we'd say something like, yes, I think it's important to go to college because, plus a subject and a verb, or no, I don't think it's important to go to college because. Okay, so let's talk. Pause the video and let's practice talking about higher education. So great work today. Keep practicing. This is how we get better at speaking. So congratulations, you've finished class 14. If you want to get more practice and really remember the vocabulary and the grammar that you've learned in this class, get the vocabulary review at EnglishLessonsWithStephanie.com, as well as some other materials. If you're enjoying these free lessons, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So thanks, and I'll see you next time.